Did women storm the beaches of Normandy? No. Yesterday was D-Day, and I saw a rather silly argument, I thought, on social media yesterday about the contribution women may or may not have made towards D-Day, the largest amphibious assault in history. And while women did not storm the beaches, because women were, even though women were in the army, they were not allowed to be armed. They were definitely not in active combat at that time. The truth is that thousands of women were involved in the planning and a lot of the strategy and tactical intelligence that came along with what became D-Day. First of all, you had the code breakers, which they didn't just break codes, they also relayed on the day, and the days leading up to D-Day, they relayed tactical intelligence to men in the field. This right here is a picture of the women at Bletchley Park, which you may or may not have heard of. Thousands of female agents and couriers were also dropped into France in the months and weeks before D-Day to organize resistance groups and relay messages, things like that. Going back even further in the planning process, women were heavily involved in map making, which was actually vital to the strategic planning. They were involved in deciphering aerial reconnaissance photos, and almost immediately after the successful invasion, women were storming the beaches or coming on the beach. This is a picture, I believe, of American nurses coming. I think American nurses came 4 days after the initial invasion on June 6th, and they set up field hospitals, which were vital, of course, to try to save the lives of the men who had survived storming the beaches. And of course, this was not just the Americans, this was all the allies. The British women also came in and set up communications, and there were nurses and transport and lots of other stuff. That could take forever for me to talk about all the different things that they did after D-Day. Just the army of typists and the women that were in the Signal Corps were vital to continuing the invasion, the success of the invasion. And remember that World War II was a total war, and that meant that everybody really was pulled into this conflict, including, here's a young little Audrey Hepburn. I'm sure you've heard the stories of, she was in occupied Holland and did things like organized fundraisers and relayed messages and tried to help down pilots. There are books about what she did during the war, but she's just one of many children that were pulled into the war. This is a photo that I took of one of the women from the 149th Post Headquarters Company who served during World War II in Algiers. And I just want to say that this argument I saw on social media, you don't have to denigrate one to glorify the other. What the men who stormed the beaches of Normandy did on that day is amazing, and that kind of sacrifice I can't even imagine. But I don't think that we have to denigrate everyone else's contribution to the success of World War II, because World War II, the victory in Europe, took so many different people, so many people's lives, so much sacrifice, and we don't need to argue about who was more important. They all were important. If you are interested in what women did during World War II, you might like my book, Murder in the Ranks. It's a historical mystery, and I based it on a real company of blacks that served in Algiers. It's available wherever books are sold. Thanks.